Kalimera, kalispera, kalinikta. No matter where in this wild, wacky, and beautiful world you might be, thank you for making the Highbury Squad part of your day. I know it was a heavy weekend. Here we go. Don't worry. The Highbury Squad is here. Everything's going to be cool. Let's rock and roll. It's Monday Madness. New week, blank canvas.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Everyone, I have two podcast brothers from different mothers in the house tonight, and I can't wait for this one. Joining me once again at Squad Central is the legend himself, who's been there telling you he's got some nuggets for you tonight, Mr. Super Kevin Campbell.
Squaddies! Time to get going. At ease.
At ease. And joining us back in Squad Central, it has been way too long. We were hoping he'd bring the Sooligan with him this time around, but he has not. He's doing amazing bits around the world, spinning tunes and making people happy. And of course, he's one of our favorite gooners. Welcome back to Squad Central, Mr. DJ Tony Perry. Bosh!
Squaddies, lovely to see you, and thank you for being for letting me have be on the show today. I'm often on Mondays potting around my kitchen, listening to you guys with an AirPod in, with a baby running around, and then now I'm here, so it's really nice to catch up with you again.
Oh, well, we love having you here. And we've got all the usual suspects in the house. Demian, who's a huge fan, saying hello to you, DJ Tony Perry.
My brother.
Look at him. He's busting out the Greek there. Super Kev is Demian now. He's trying to show off.
I love it.
I love it too. Tammy, our chief like officer, ready to keep everyone in check. We've got K Marlon here. Mark B's here. Guna Rose is here. The whole gang is here. PW. Thank you so much for joining. We have Rebellion in the house as well, but I'm sure he will be on his best behavior this evening. Right, let's rock and roll. Before we get stuck into talking about yesterday's game and stuff, I do want to share this. Remember, our friends at Zenith Coins are rocking and rolling with the new clock end coin. And I tell you something, Kev, ever since we've launched, it's gone a bit nuts. The boys have written, they've had orders from all over the world. And this is Matty K sharing his picture with us. The Clock End Limited Edition. It's pinned on the top of the show. Use code HS15, get your 15% off. And you could be, look at Matty's collection there, Kev. He's got the Clock End coin. He's got the Arsenal coin.
It looks the business, doesn't it? Yeah, it looks the business.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. So thanks for sharing with us, Matty. And I'll put up all your pictures as they come in. Right. Where do we begin? There's a lot to unpack. We didn't do a post-game show yesterday, so today's going to be a little bit of a mix. We're going to get the lads' take on it. Yesterday, Super Kev and DJ Tony Perry, I wanted to start here with you guys on this one. So yesterday, I actually was covering the LA Galaxy LAFC game, and spontaneously, something happened in the press conference. I didn't even ask him. But he reminded himself of a time where he lost the league in horrible fashion. Here's what happened yesterday when I just sat there asking this guy a question and he turned it into Arsenal. Here we go. Javier, I was saying to Greg, that's one of the best.
Where are you from? Sorry.
I'm from London, England, okay. But I live here. I live in California. Yeah.
I miss that accent a little bit.
Yeah. It's not been a good day for my teams, so here we go.
What's your team?
Arsenal.
Yeah, it was tough.
Come on.
I saw it. Good for my team, though.
Yeah. Well, you're a hammer. Do you think it's over for us then? Do you think Manchester City now they sniff? They're predators. They're like.
I mean, I think we are happy because it got more interesting. Sometimes when you see teams when they are already like 8 points ahead and like before the end of the season, like 4 games before the end of the season that you already know who's going to win. I won one Premier League like that, but then I lost one in a very painful way against Manchester City. I don't know if you remember that goal. So yeah, it's more interesting when they are like, close, each time. So we'll see. They have a game against between each other, so that's going to be key.
Yeah, the week after next. I'm counting down.
Yeah.
So hopefully your team Arsenal, though.
Well, we'll see. I want Arsenal to win the league, actually, because I don't want the neighbours to win it.
Yeah, the noisy neighbours.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of noisy neighbours, there you have it. Me and Chicharito yesterday just hanging out. And Kev, you know what made me laugh, which is why I wanted to show it to everyone, is when I said Arsenal, he went...
Yeah, it was painful. So he got it right. It was really painful for us Schooners, wasn't it? It was. And let me just go into it a little bit, Soph, because was it too easy the first 10 minutes? It was too easy. We could do what we want. We passed through them. We cut them open. We 1-0 Jesus, 2-0 Odegaard. We were flying, Soph. We weren't in any danger. But the one thing that is very, very telling about what happened was we became too complacent, and West Ham all of a sudden started to press us with a vengeance. They were pressing us very high. And trying to be too smart, trying to be too clever is not the way forward. You've got to stick to your principles, but you've got to keep the ball moving. And what do? We tried to talk, we tried to take liberties, and we got caught. And we know about momentum. They get a penalty, which was a penalty. They score it. Second half, we get a penalty. So if you remember last week, we were talking about, it was a point saved because, they missed the penalty as well. Well, this time we missed the penalty and we dropped 2 points. That's the difference. And then obviously they go and score at the other end. And for all of a sudden we try and get ourselves going, make substitutions and all that. We never look like scoring again, Soph. We never look like scoring again. And when you get yourselves in front like this, especially at West Ham London Derby, we didn't lose the game, but we've got to win that game. We've got to win that game. So, yeah, we have got something went down the wrong pipe from me yesterday. So, just like the team. It was a little bit of a coffin, but we are still top. And it's just making it very, like Chicharito said, it's just making it very interesting now. No room for error in any team now. So we wanted a title run in, but one now, even more so.
Yeah, and no title run in. Very rarely do they happen with such a massive cushion. I left this up, Tony, from Donna Potts. Hi, Donna. Welcome to the show. What actually happened? Please explain so I can understand. I think Kev just did, but it's one of those head scratchers when you watch us play the way we did for 10 minutes, 11 minutes, and then do nothing for 85. That is not characteristic of this Arsenal team.
We played fine for half an hour. We played fine for half an hour, right? And I know it's 90 minutes, but we had no problems. We created our own problems. And that's one thing you never see the best sides do. Self-destruct.
And that's what we did.
We self-destructed a little bit yesterday.
We did. And Tony, one of the things I think that crept in yesterday, which was a little bizarre for me and uncharacteristic, which is why I left Donna's question up here too, is weird because the flick's 20 minutes in, so not the culture of who Arteta is as a manager and the culture that he's infused on this team. That's the first one. Second one was the penalty, which we'll get to, I know, when we talk about the miss and Saka. But Jesus gets it, Odegaard there were just some things that crept into that game that haven't been part of our DNA this season. Over to you.
Yeah, massively. I think that it's interesting because almost the entire season we've exuded control, almost in every game bar maybe Everton away. I think Leeds, we had a tough time as well. We're not used to seeing us kind of slip back in the way that we did. especially after taking control in the first 20. Part of me almost thinks that we spent so much emotional energy at Anfield. I've never been so nervous before a game, to be honest. Even before cup finals, I couldn't get that out of my head. And even though we went 2-0 up, I almost felt like we almost had a hangover from that match, despite us going 2-0 up in some ways. And where the focus, and I'm sure Arteta would have been crazy at the boys, you know, at half time, after the game as well, because I know we went at 2-1. You can't let those kind of things slip. And it seemed like we just didn't maybe focus enough as well. The one positive thing that I'll say is that we did have chances to kill the game. And I know that there was a time when we were at Jesus and it was looking like, I can't see where the answers are coming from. And we're trying, because we lost Martinelli's effectiveness when Jesus went out of the team. What I'm clinging on to is that we should have been up 3-1 in this game. So even without having played very well for a large chunk of it by that point. So I'm trying to cling on to the focus because I'm going to be positive about this. But I think that we came out with a point like we did at Anfield. And perhaps that is another reminder in the evolution of this team. Learn from that lesson, fellas. Learn from that lesson, because you escaped. Again, Antonio hit the bar towards the end as well. We could be looking at 0 points out of 6. And we got 2. And I've still got this flame inside of me that's saying there's more to come.
Yeah. Okay, so Kev, I do want to talk about the players. We're not going to do ratings tonight because we didn't do it at post-game, but we're just going to talk about the players and everything. But where I want to go next is it's so easy to point the finger at Saka because he missed a penalty, right? This is a player who has saved us this is his 3rd season now playing exceptionally well for the Arsenal. He's been our player of the year 2 seasons, will probably be the player of the year again this season. He has single-handedly held this club together. And when there have been senior players like Aubameyang and Lacazette in the side, he has been the leader by the way he's played. He missed a penalty for England, came back, fought harder and stronger, overcame that adversity. This kid has shown that he's strong-minded, Kev. He can come back from absolutely anything. It's also easy to point the finger and say, oh, Thomas Partey had an absolute stinker, -2. If he doesn't play well, we don't play well at all. We forget in moments where we're a team, right? So, yeah, Partey had a stinker, Saka missed a penalty. But I want to talk about Mikel Arteta's game management, because I've been dying to ask you this question. So many Arsenal fans have issues with his subs in the last couple of games. They either come too late, or when they come, they're confusing. I think the most confusing one at the weekend was probably the Odegaard sub. Kev, talk me through his growth, because everything's always on the players, right? I think at this point is where a team can go into 5th gear and have a manager who's been here before, but because they've all been here before together, it's kind of like the blind leading the blind. Help me understand his role at this point and how you felt he maybe mismanaged what happened.
Well, I don't think he mismanaged it at all. I think people are quick to say he didn't do this right, he didn't do that right, because we didn't get the right result. Look, the fact of the matter is, when we're playing, we didn't look like scoring. We didn't look like we were going to do anything. And the previous week, he got lambasted for making change too late. He makes them earlier because he wants to change something within the game. Different players come on, offer different, have different talents. He's still getting lambasted. So I don't. That's the part I don't get. Now the key is you've got a bench. You've got to use it. If something's not working out on that pitch, this is a game we've got to win. So you've got to try and make some changes, and that's what he did. It didn't work out, but it's not the manager's fault. The buck stops with him, like I've said it all along. Yes, it does. But at the end of the day, you bring players on, you give them a run out. It's not, certain players didn't just get 10 minutes. They got a good chunk of the game. But I swear we still could have played now. We wouldn't have scored again. In fact, if we'd have played too long, they would have scored, because at times we look vulnerable on the break. So again, Is it the manager getting it wrong? No, I don't think it is. Honestly, I don't think it is. I think there was a complacency in the team yesterday after going 2-0 up that I hadn't seen in a long time. Their confidence is one thing, but complacency is another. And if you notice, we couldn't get out of that cycle. Once we took a step back and we thought we were having ourselves, we couldn't get on the front foot properly. So it don't matter who you brought on, we weren't going to score.
Yeah, couple of notes in the house. Stop this nonsense, okay? Mr. QWERTY, you make one more comment like that and you'll be out on your arse, okay? Firstly. Secondly, Guna Rose, I don't believe I criticize Saka. I'm defending him. Are you guys not listening today? I'm asking the question.
Saka at all.
I'm not criticizing. I'm asking the question about Mikel based on what most fans are saying and thinking. Right. I actually, for the first time I think it was the players yesterday. I think they let him down. Tony, how are you seeing it from the fan point of view in terms of his game management, where, of course, he's got a lot to learn still? He does.
I think this is the key thing, Soph. I think this is, whilst they've all been there and done it with the pain of last season, this is an embryo of a manager, basically, in terms of experience of him being out there on the front. Just because you're potentially taking a view on substitutions he's made through the course of the season, absolutely, because he's learning as well, right? So you think back to Old Trafford where we had that game in a stranglehold. You were right to point out, or we were right to point out, that the subs weren't correct then. I agree with Kev, because I think for yesterday's game, it was a bit different because it was complacency, and some of our star performers maybe took their eye off the ball a little bit. I think I'd be surprised if you see Partey trying to do anything like that again. And I'd like to say congratulations to Declan Rice because he passed his audition, his final one in that moment as well, of coming to the Arsenal. But I think with Mikel yesterday, it was fine. And as I say, this is the one thing that I will potentially say, and I want to give him credit for, is that we're quite an emotional team compared to a lot of others that I see out there. We've got an emotional manager and the players are emotional as well. You look at the leaders, the likes of Zenith and Xhaka. These are people that are greatly emotional. Arteta has already shown many times through the season where he's learned. He's kind of put a lid on some of his passions and getting a little bit over the top. So I think that he's definitely learning throughout the course of the season. And yesterday, I don't particularly have a problem with him. But what I would like to think is that he has now got so much ammunition between now and Friday to get those boys rolled up. And I believe in him. It's not just his in-game, it's his in-week management that I have a lot of faith in, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. You know, also, Kev, when we look at the options on the bench, we went through a phase after January where we were thinking, wow, it looks a little bit better when you have the choices. But unfortunately for us as well, we've fallen into that same trap. And it's not a trap. It happens in football, of course. You don't have Saliba. I felt yesterday, more than Saliba even maybe, the option to come off the bench or even to start Tomiyasu is someone that hasn't been talked about as much because everyone's so focused on Saliba, right? Losing him again at the same time of the season. It hasn't made Arteta's job easier, has it, Kev? I mean, everyone has to contend with that. But when you are the youngest team and the youngest manager, going for everything, for us, it's not easy.
No, it's not easy. And let's be brutally honest here, Soph. If Tomiyasu was fit, so to speak, who's to say Ben White doesn't go beside Gabriel and Tomiyasu plays right back? Do you understand what I mean? So there's some continuity there. Listen, and that's no disrespect to Rob Holding, because I thought Rob Holding's done all right. But Saliba has shown at this level he's a cut above. And we miss him so much, don't we? We miss him so much. Not only is his presence there, because he could deal with he could deal with Antonio, he could deal with long balls, he's quick, he covers the ground. But on the ball, he makes us start and tick from the back, which is so important where Rob Holding's nowhere near as good as Saliba on the ball. Saliba drop a shoulder and then he'll play a ball into midfield where somebody could get it and turn. Rob Holding just hasn't got that in his locker, so.
Yeah.
I-
It, go on, Tony.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think that if you look at who's missing as well, Zinchenko, that's 50% of your starting back four for the whole course of the season. That's a big deal, right? And I know that you get through it, and I'll give some examples later about stuff I was remembering from back in the day. But I think Zinny's absence also has a huge impact on Thomas Partey, right? Because he's not a left back, as we know. He's a midfielder essentially for most of the time. And I know that someone quite rightly pointed out Jorginho's stats when he came on were better. But I think it's harder for Partey without having that other outlet next to him, to just someone to give the ball to. And Zinchenko's also one of the best midfielders in the league this season as well. So we're really down on our luck with half of that back four missing. And I agree. I think back to that Europa League night, Tomiyasu has been a significant miss. But I also like to say, I don't think Rob Holding has been terrible. You know, I wouldn't stick it on him that this is why we lost. I think it was a team complacency thing. A number of people didn't have their best day. And
we never lost.
And we never lost. That's Super Kev is bang on it. We'll get to the positivity, I'm sure, Sophie, in a bit.
We are. And I actually don't think it's been negative so far. I think we've tried to talk about what seemed to be negative in a positive way, right? So, Kev, would you have subbed Saka yesterday? It's coming up a lot in the chat. I've got to ask you that one. Would you have brought Trossard on earlier? And if Thomas Partey was having such a stinker, just to wrap up the substitution side of things here, would you have brought on Jorginho earlier, considering how pedestrian West Ham were in the midfield versus the speed they had on the flanks?
Earlier, not necessarily earlier. I thought the subs came on at the right time. Saka could have gone off. You could have taken. Let's be honest. You could have taken anyone off. If we're honest, because we weren't doing anything. You know, we weren't creating anything. We looked in the second half, we looked a bit sluggish. You know, as an attacking force, when usually we are on the front foot, we're quite dynamic. We looked a bit sluggish, so we could have taken anyone off. But listen, Jorginho comes on. What did we create when Jorginho come on? Didn't create anything. So your stats could be good, but the key is what production do we have? And unfortunately, we just couldn't get it going in the second half.
Yeah. And I think what people have forgotten as well, guys, is that it's a London derby, right? It's a
Exactly.
London derby. And I don't care where in the world you're playing football. Yesterday, I went to a derby here in LA, right? It's the showcase game in MLS. LA Galaxy have not won a game all season. They've played 7 games, and LAFC have not lost a game. And yesterday, you couldn't tell who was the team that was winless versus you couldn't. And Kev, we said when we looked at the schedule as well, Tony, we were like, wow, we got 2 London derbies left. I don't care who they're against. They're London derbies.
Always hard. And do you know what? So here's the funny thing about football. West Ham go 2-0 down and you hear the crowd booing. You hear the West Ham fans turn. As soon as they start to win the ball a bit higher up the pitch, you can hear the crowd getting into it, right? Mm-hmm. And then, obviously, Declan Rice really puts pressure on Thomas Partey. They got the penalty. 2-1. Now the home crowd are into it. We get the opportunity second half, which was a penalty, but it was a bit fortunate because we didn't create much. We get the opportunity, and that's the opportunity we've got to take. We don't take it, and then they go down the other end virtually straight after and equalise. This is running football now. This is what it's about. You don't take your chances, the opposition going to hurt you. They needed a point. You could see that they were up for it, so they really wanted to beat us. You could see that.
They did. They did. And all this stuff, Tony, as well, about you know how to get a crowd going, that's for sure. You've done it at the World Cup. You've done it at the Euros. You do it at Premier League stadiums every weekend. This idea, okay, there are a few people in chat, no doubt, aggravating me right now, and that's fine. But this is why. Because some people you can't reason with, right? There are 2 narratives that I want to touch on now that have me lit, right? First one is we got the crowd into it again. Shut up. It's a football match. What are you going to watch? Chess? You're going to a football match. The crowd's going to get riled up either way. The West Ham fans were just waiting for something to get them going. We didn't have to ignite them because we gave away a penalty or a free kick or whatever. And I hope that those people that went for Xhaka last weekend saying that he's the reason why Liverpool came back are eating a little bit of crow and that humble pie that you often want to serve me up. It's the most nonsense I've ever heard. Fair or foul, Tony?
Totally agree. I mean, at tennis, they say, quiet, please. Have you ever heard that at a football match? And do you know what? I can only imagine some of the stuff that, Kev, you'll tell us, professional footballers, the amount of stuff that you hear, crazy people. I've had it as a DJ, nowhere near the level of exposure you guys get. People throwing all kinds of stuff at you. It's part of the trade, right? That's how you get on with things. And I think that, as you quite rightly said, anything that changed the dynamic, particularly at Anfield, was Liverpool scoring, not Granit Xhaka, I think, for me. That's what gets a crowd going, right? Because they have belief. So that's, I'm 100% into that. Exactly what you said there. So totally agree.
I mean, you've been involved in games where fans are yelling at you, not nice things, and where fans are lauding you and singing your name. What do you think about this ridiculous narrative, I think?
Listen, I said it last week and I'll say it this week. People who say, oh, they got the crowd into it. I remember the season before where Mikel Arteta and Jurgen Klopp got into it on the side and the crowd. Oh, but the crowd come into it. The crowd are just waiting for anything. You know, that they want their team to be on the front foot. Mm-hmm. They want to see their team do well. And that's why I mentioned when they went pressing and they started trapping us a little bit, that got the crowd involved. But really, the belief comes when you score.
100%.
If they don't score, then the level goes down again.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, so it was a bad day at the office for us.
It really was.
Yesterday.
It was a terrible day at the office.
And then we just got worse. We could dissect. We could look at subs. We could look at everything. We just didn't perform to how we normally do.
No. And for the first time, I felt a disconnect between Mikel and how he talked about his team at the end of it. Not because he threw anyone under the bus, but he's been such a wall of protection for them. And rightly so. I love a manager that protects their players publicly. And he's been brilliant at that. But I also think, Tony, maybe yesterday in his post-game stuff, maybe what he was trying to do was give them a little nudge and a reminder. Maybe he felt too that they had become complacent. And
100%.
And he kind of talked about the mental side.
I agree. And I think we've had the privilege of seeing inside that dressing room via the Amazon doc as well. And Kev, you'll be able to give us some more light on this. He's a master of psychology, and you can't keep using the same script throughout the course of a season. He's thinking, what do I do this week? What do I do next week to motivate my players? And I do think at this crunch time, there's all the ammunition's there. He's got an abundance of it. It's right to sometimes smack a little bottom and say, guys, remember who you are. And because for me, I'm looking on Twitter and online, it's all there. I'd be saying if I was Mikel this week to the players, guys, they think you're soft. They think you're soft, right? And if I'm in that changing room, Mikel can then show them an amazing video of all the things we've done this season, you know, totally battering Spurs home and away, destroying Man United 3-2, which is more like a 5-2. There's so many, you know, the Bournemouth game, the remontada, like there's so many examples. And I think he can fire the boys up. And I'm happy to see him when he needs to be that disciplinarian. And I listened to the episode you guys did, and I've enjoyed so many of them this year, I've got to say as well. You've been
thank you.
A pleasure to listen to for so many ways. You're part of the family in my household. That's how it works, right? But some of the insight that you gave on the comparisons that I've always seen between George Graham and Mikel, I bet he used to do all kinds of different things as well. And that famous video, of course, when he said the rest of the league was against us, Mikel can't just be protective all the time. Sometimes you've got to fire them up in a different way. And I know if I was in his dressing room, I'd love that. I'd respond to that well.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I
Really
want to stick with that a little bit, actually, Kev, on the Graham thing, because you were brilliant on TalkSport Breakfast this morning, and you went in there in, you know, I love it when Kev's on TalkSport Breakfast, because, you know, he just brocks it big time. He doesn't, you know, he speaks truths, and he brocks them next this morning. And Kev, one of the things that has been coming up is, the idea of it's over, right? And yesterday, my instinct, I'm being honest, was talking in a WhatsApp group, and I said, for me, I think it's over only because of the experience of Manchester City, the mentality of the manager. They've been there before. They've duplicated this over and over again in every competition they've played except for the Champions League. We have to play them. We struggled against West Ham. So I'm trying to rationalize in my head, Newcastle and Brighton, so much better than West Ham. How's that going to go? Right? So in my mind, I'm like, maybe it is. But you experienced something as a young player under Graham when you first came when you first got into like the team stuff, and then again in 91. When it felt in 89, Kev, it felt like it was over.
This is the £1 million question. Is it over? Because what would the fan base do who are young? I think Tony admitted he was a nipper when in 89. But 3 games to go, squaddies, and I know some of you remember, we're playing Derby at home. We get beat 2-1 at home. 3 games to go, Derby. And then we're on the Tuesday. We go 2-1 up and the game ends 2-2. Some lad, I don't know who he is. I've never heard of him since. I've never seen him since. Scores the equaliser for Wimbledon. We draw 2-2, and then we've got to win by 2 clear goals at Anfield. That set the scene. It's never going to happen. Lagoon has never even travelled because Liverpool don't lose at Anfield, let alone lose by 2 goals. So what do we do now? Do we down tools and just think, we've had a good season? Or does the manager chat, boys? It's a 7-game league now. 7 games. You make sure you come out on top. That's it. That's all it is, Soph. Tony, 21 points up for grabs. And who's to say Arsenal can't go to the Etihad and win? Who's to say that? If Brentford could go there and win, why can't Arsenal?
So why can't
Everton.
they?
So
was Everton?
all these things.
Brentford, Everton.
Everton drew. Brentford won.
Yeah.
So I want to listen. I said on TalkSport this morning, it's just going to make it really exciting. But if you want to be champions, especially that Manchester City team, you've got to take it off them. Because you know what? If you just want to be nicey, they're going to brock you up in the end. They done that to us at the Emirates. We were, let's play nice football. We're the ones who made the mistakes. Now we're going to have to go to their place. We've got to brock them. We've got to win there. Because they win their game in hand, it's 1 point. I'll take winning it by 1 point, Tony. I'll take that. I'll win it by 1 point. I'll take it. Goal difference is going to be tough. But 1 point, I'll take it. But we've got to believe, guys.
But I've seen some interesting things where some people, you do your predictions of how the games are going to go, which is, God bless us soul, mystic meg material. We're never really going to know. But a lot of people had us down to beat West Ham yesterday and to draw at St. James's Park. I don't know what's going to happen, but I always felt because of the pain of St. James's, we are winning there. So we've swapped the draw that we've got at St. James's for a draw at West Ham. And also, correct me if I'm wrong, right? I'm thinking back to the Invincibles season. We drew famously at Old Trafford. I'm pretty sure we drew at Highbury that season as well, right? 1-1, if I remember. So I agree with you. I want to beat Man City to take the championship off them. But with this Goliath that they are, and we're a baby team who I will also like to come back to this period of time in 3 years because I think there's so much more to come from Arsenal, that basically you don't have to beat the champions. Arsenal's Invincibles didn't beat their biggest rival in that season. We drew twice, correct me if I'm wrong. So we can go there and draw. And for me, if we go there next week and draw, I'm buzzing again. And I'd also like to say we have a massive blessing. We've got a game on Friday to get fired up for and steady the waters a little bit before then, which I think is huge for us. If we're going straight into the Etihad at the moment, yeah, it's very scary, of course. But now we can get some fire back.
Mm-hmm. That is a great point in that game, Kev, sandwiched in between the City game, right, against Southampton, who are in real trouble. Oh, your pitch side. Yeah, that's right. Your pitch side.
I'm going to be pitch side. So, listen, the fact of the matter is, when you're in a title running and you don't get the results, I tell every gooner this. Boys will just want to go out there and get 3 points on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Just to make everybody a little bit calmer. Because I believe Manchester City, have they got the FA Cup semi-final soon, haven't they?
Yes.
So we could, I know they'll have games in hand, etc. But I'd rather have the points on the board. Let me tell you, I'd rather have points on the board going to play them at the Etihad.
Yeah.
Because that means they can't mess up either.
Right, exactly. And
people
someone
talk about us messing up. Remember, they can't afford to.
They really can't afford to. But the thing is with them, Kev, I think they've been through their blip. Now, anything's possible in football. To me, they feel like they've gone into their predator gear, relentless mode gear. And the only team that I'm hoping takes points off them is us. And, you know, it's going to be tough. Let me get some of these other comments up. Shouldn't be drawing games from...
I hope a couple more teams take points off them, so if I'm honest with you.
I have to say, Kev, I'm a bit bummed Tottenham aren't playing them. Tottenham aren't playing them.
But here's the funny thing about football, Sophie. Here's the funny thing about football. You just never know week to week what's going to happen. Because you know what? They've got this thing called VAR, which could absolutely usurp any team in the league. We've seen it work. We've seen it work against us. So you just never know. The thing is, we've got to take care of our business, which we haven't been doing. We have to take care of our business. If we do that, we can win the league. We just need to refocus and get ruthless.
Tell them, Kev. I've got one super quick point as well to remind all the Goonies in this little therapy session that we're having here for one another, right? How did you all feel after we got beaten 3-1 at the Emirates? Because I left and I thought it was really nice, that dream of the title, and never mind, you know, we'll have a good rest of the season. And then, like Kev says, funny old game, Man City draw to Nottingham Forest in the next set of fixtures and everything changes. And whilst they've had their blip, they've got a lot of plate spinning at the moment. This time last year, I thought Liverpool were going to win all 4 trophies. I thought they were amazing. Stuff can happen and we've got to keep the faith. 100%, I know we will.
Yeah. I think you guys have come to the right spot tonight to get some positive talk here from DJ Tony Perry and Super Kevin Campbell, of course. Arsenal drawing to West Ham, not the ideal result. Don't forget our good friends at Zenith Coins. Check the link at the top of the page. Get your 15% off. Give DJ Tony Perry a follow right here, and Super Kev as well. And if you haven't subscribed or liked the show and you're listening tonight and you like what you hear, give us another shot. Why not? Kev, I want to talk about moving forward now. The West, is there anything you guys want to lay on the table for the West Ham game? We've talked about the subs. We talked about, Saka's missed penalty, which we're all standing behind him because he's saved us. Is there anything else you guys wanted to say on that before we move on? Or are you cool with...
I just thought our big players didn't perform. You know, the players that we've relied on all season didn't really perform. And, you know, when Thomas Partey's making mistakes outside of his own box like that, usually he's so comfortable and so careful around the box. He plays with precision that he was just trying to be too complacent, and he got done. And when it was up to our big players, when we needed them, we just couldn't get it going, Sophie. So I want to put that to bed. All right, that's gone. Are we still in pole position? Yeah, we are. Believe it or not. 2 bad results in our mind, but we're still in pole position.
Let me put
7 games to go.
Yeah, so let's put up some comments. before we talk about a few other bits. We were arrogant after scoring 2 goals. Yeah, it's very uncharacteristic. Shouldn't be drawing games from a 2-goal lead. Arteta is to blame for the last 2 results, in my opinion, says Climbing the Walls. PW says we were fine until Partey's mistake and then the penalty. We have here, let's see. Leeds Gunner says we didn't lose. Psychologically, that is very important. If Man City was doing this, people would call them resilient and playing in second gear. It's because we expected them to win. Why? I love that. Steve Adams wanted to talk about in-game.
Well, we expected us to win because we've been winning these games.
Yeah, but it goes back to the London Derby thing too. And West Ham is a team that, that we play well against. Let's see. Tick Football says okay, Saka misses the penalty. Does it take away what he's done this season? It's not just a moment where a young man is. Nope, doesn't at all. Elliot thinks Saka should have been subbed. Jesus should have been left on the pitch. 100% correct. Should Jesus, Tony, have taken the penalty?
Do you know, honestly, my first opinion when I saw and thought that it was going to be him, I'd obviously brushed up on the stats recently that he hasn't had the best record with penalties. So I was kind of pleased to see Bukayo Saka pick up the penalty. But it's just one of those, as you guys have said before, it's one of those anomalies. Like Salah doing the exact same thing the previous week. You just have to kind of live with
Ivan Toney.
Ivan Toney, someone made a fantastic point down there. Yeah. Ivan Toney, who's the terminator of penalties, apparently. It just happens. Penalties are quite a lottery, as we well know. So I'm not at all fazed by that. What I'm pleased now is Bukayo missing that penalty and us escaping with a point. He's got some little bonus coins in his pocket now because that boy, his inner belief and everything he's going to have from that. Bless him, he wrote an apology on Instagram. I don't want to go into it too much. He's got it for us. He is fantastic. And I can't wait to see what he's going to pull out of his pocket and do some wizardry in the next couple of games.
Friday. Roll on.
Hold that corner flag, boy.
Kev, I know that a lot of fans, again, remember, all you lot think you know everything too sometimes. All the fans saying they wanted Tierney for Zinny because Zinny in defense, he's not as good a defender. Well, you got what you wanted, kids. Kev?
So, listen, Kieran Tierney is a top left back. That's not even the argument. Nope. Is he a top left back? But the domination of possession that Zinchenko brings and the control of the game is different. That's why you see West Ham could come into it. And at times, Kieran Tierney did move into that spot. But he is not Zinchenko. He's not comfortable in there. Zinchenko's there. He does make a difference. And that's why Zinchenko's been preferred. Because you know what? If you haven't got the ball, I don't care who you've got against you. If you haven't got the ball, you can't hurt us. And that's what Arsenal have built their game on. Keeping possession, moving up and down the pitch as a unit, but dominating the ball. And unfortunately, for a large chunk of the middle part of the game, we just couldn't control the game. And then when they scored, they kind of sat back, were happy with a point, trying to play on the counter-attack. And we just couldn't get it going, so we couldn't put an extra man in midfield. Obviously, had to try and make changes. But like I said at the start, so we could have been playing till next week.
And it wouldn't have changed. Here's one for you. Get your questions in. We'll do some questions here as well with Kev and DJ Tony Perry. And then we're going to get to the other thing that's really irking me. Do any of you, Sophie, Tony and Kev, think that our fans have been a little quiet in the last... You know what? I've been very, very careful to say anything. Because as you've seen, if I say something, some people jump down your throats and they're missing the point. I actually do think our fans have been a bit quieter, but I don't think it's not because they don't love the team. It's fear. Tony, it's pure fear. You can hear it at the Emirates again, that pin drop moment, but then there's moments of loudness. You know what I mean? It's pure fear, is it not?
It's squeaky bum time for the fans as well as the players. We're nervous. We've got a lot of PTSD about so many things that have happened over the last 20 years. And you've got to respect it as well. We've got to all, and this is exactly what you're saying, Soph. These are just opinions that we're giving out, and fans have got different ways of behaving at games. Some are nervous. Some, like the wonderful Suligan, my mother, who I know is watching, she'll be bellowing whatever happens because that's her way of dealing with it. And Papa Perry, who I know is watching as well, they both say hi. In terms of answering about the question about the game, I do think sometimes it has been a little bit quiet, the Emirates. And I'll come to something later on where I've been privileged to help kind of get rid of nervous energy. And I've got one great example from a particular England match during the Euros that I did something that...
Tell us.
Not saying it. So basically, do you remember when we played Denmark in the Euros? And it went to extra time. And the place was incredibly nervous. Just like Gooners, England were thinking, we're going to cock this up again, aren't we? We're going to cock it up again. And now I'm technically neutral, but I'm quite clearly wearing my 3 lions right underneath me there. We scored just before half time of extra time. And normally when you have a break in play, it's kind of holding music, almost like you're in a lift, or there's some match protocols you've got to go through, whatever. There was no script for that particular part of the game because it'd gone beyond the 90. Yeah. Exactly. And so at that period of time, they're like, Tony, the floor is yours. You've got this 5-minute gap. Do what you want to do. And of course, not that it's for Denmark technically as well, but I want England to do something, right? So at that moment, you've got 3 or 4 rocket launcher songs that will get a stand bouncing, particularly when it's England fans. So at that moment, I played Gala's Freed from Desire, which is the surefire hit that will get the stands bouncing. There's a video I'll share with you. At that moment, instead of everybody being like, oh, let's get a beer or whatever, the entire stadium was bouncing, the entire stadium. And that, for me, I know it doesn't always affect the players, but it expelled some negative or potentially nervous energy. So everyone's got their own ways of dealing with it, is my point. That's something that, and I would love to be there for Arsenal one day and helping them. But I don't think it's necessarily been quiet. I think it's nervousness. And I think other things come into play, like the time of the games and the narrative before each one. I'm sure so many of the other Gooners watching this now, how nervous were you before Anfield? Like, it's one of those things. And one final point. I did hear that apparently maybe it wasn't quite as loud at the London Stadium. It's because it's a London game, and maybe there's more tourists in town to watch these games. There's loads of dynamics that affect it, So loads of reasons.
And Tom, when things start to turn against you, sometimes it's difficult to be loud.
Yeah, you're nervous.
The shock of what happened at Anfield was shock, and definitely against West Ham was shock. And then you see in the way we're performing, sometimes it's like, what's going on? And we're at that time of the season now where fans are going to be questioning, this ain't us. Do you know what I mean? This ain't us. So the dynamic is a little bit different. But we say it on air, Sophie, all the time. This is where we all got to come together. And the fans are going to help this. If we're going to win it, the fans are going to have to play their part. I'm telling you now.
100% Super Kev. And the title of the show today is Arsenal are on the ropes. We have to stick together. And this is the thumbnail today because I'm like, I just want this to be about, are we on the ropes? Yes. Can we keep up the fight? We're going to find out. But we have to stick together through and through as fans. And even, yesterday I had a conversation with Jordan Jarrett Bryan, a good friend of the show on TalkSport. And there are a lot of things that, I was very peeved about. But I'm also not going to throw this team that has given me so much joy this season under the bus. Do we need to do things better? 100%. Is it going to be absolutely crushing to not win this league? I don't even know how my recovery program is going to kick in. I don't even know what the tools are that I'm going to be able to use. Maybe there aren't tools in a toolbox for this one. I don't know. But when you come at me on my show and make those comments, be prepared. I'll come at you as well, right? We've been behind this team all season. Opinions are important. And I'm so over these Arsenal fans who are out there who try and gaslight other Arsenal fans. It's your tweet that actually ignites negative conversation. It's your tweet that is toxic positive, that makes other Arsenal fans respond and stand up for themselves. They can support the club how they like. They can support the club they love how they like. Don't tell Arsenal fans how to feel right now. The team doesn't know how to feel. How should we know how to feel? Let people be. Stop this nonsense. And as for the pundits and everyone else out there, Super Kev, circling back to the second thing that is irritating me, how can you bottle something when you weren't even the favourite to begin with?
Hey, listen, a lot of people talk about bottle, right? And the fact of the matter is, it's not mathematical that lost anything. We're still top of the league. It's in our hands. So all this nonsense about bottle. Listen, we've said it all along. The team who finishes above Man City wins the league. If you don't finish above Man City, then you know who wins the league. It's always going to be that way throughout the season. And now we're coming around the last bend, aren't we? This is the key. Yeah. Did something, our drink go down the wrong hole yesterday? Yeah. And we had a little choke up. But you know what? We go again on Friday to try and stretch the lead. This is what it's about. You've got to dust yourself down. You have a couple of bad results, you go again. And you know what? This Arsenal team are growing and learning on the job, like we've said all along. The manager's learning, the team are learning. They've got to learn how to get over the line. We hope by hook or by we get over the line. But if Arsenal don't win the league, it's not because we bottled it. It's because Manchester City were better than us over 38 games.
And Tony, think about this too, right? Think about this too. Everyone's lauding Manchester City like they're the second coming, and rightly so. They have been the best for a long time. I mean, when I see Pep Guardiola, by the way, I think his mind games subtly this season have been great, right? He's been playing games, especially in these last few weeks. But we're Manchester United, Chelsea, the Tottenham Darlings, all these teams. It is the Arsenal with the youngest team fighting for the Premier League title against these giants, right? And yet somehow we're bottling it, we're choking. Choking is losing 7-0 at Anfield. That's choking.
Sophie, you know why they're coming for us, don't you? Because the big picture is, Sophie, if this Arsenal team get over the line, they've got a massive Arsenal problem on their hands. Massive for years to come. They don't want us anywhere near.
And also, I don't think those teams know what if Arsenal win, United don't, Chelsea don't, Tottenham don't, they're not going to win it, and we do. I think that's a bit of an embarrassment for those other clubs.
So the team that spent £600 million in January, that's gone and made a crazy decision. Sorry, as much as a lovely fella, Frank Lampard's, they don't know what they're doing at Chelsea, for example. They've spent all the money. There's loads of things to say. I've got to say, this is really random. I was at the zoo with my son. Bear with me on this. And as I was at the zoo...
Was Josh from Tactical Squad there with you by any chance? He loves the zoo.
It might have been.
Was he there mucking out the elephant?
It would have been good to see him. But I actually heard my brother-in-law's a Liverpool fan, and he was like, nah, you lot are just... Man City are having an off-season and all that kind of stuff. And I said, mate, all the narrative that comes towards us, I've got to say, and this is the other thing that I'm like really excited about, because I've prepared, if we don't win it this season, it ain't over, guys. We're way ahead of schedule here at the moment. This is an unbelievable team, an unbelievable manager. And the bottom line is, they know we do things in a certain way. Even if we don't win the league, this is just the beginning for this project. And I think they all hate it because they've tried to do what they're going to do. And all you keep hearing about, now Potter was speaking about Arteta, as bless him, he was falling off the ship as it was sinking. But Arteta could be Arteta. No, mate, you're not Arteta. And they've gone and got Lampard. I don't care who they bring in. And I can't wait to play them at the Emirates at the moment. You know, all these narratives for me it's just reminded me how special things are at the club at the moment. It's been massive.
Yeah. I'm going to read this one from Lynn and then some quick fire questions and we'll get you boys out of here. Everyone can go and watch the second half of, I don't know why you would want to watch that. And those listening on audio, thank you so much for tuning in too. Sometimes I feel that some of our fans haven't been watching the same games all season. As Lynn, yes, well said. Lynn, one of our favourites. I agree with you. Right, Tony and Kev, here's some quick questions. I want to get to this one from Dublin Guna. Where will City drop points make me feel better? All right.
They've got Brighton.
Arsenal.
They've got Brighton.
Arsenal.
Go on, Kev. Go on, Kev.
Goodison Park. Everton are going to be fighting for their lives. Listen, got drop points anywhere. There's a lot of teams who are fighting for their lives. Dublin Guna, scrapping. You just never know. You never know. Who thought City were going to drop points at Forest City ground? You just don't listen. You just don't know. And a run in and games and a game you could pick up a certain injury and it just puts your team out of kilter. Who knows?
Yeah. Gunu Works, we've had a lot of, the title rate. This was in response to what Tony was saying. Yeah, 100%. I just wanted to put that up for Tony. Then we have, where's the question from? Let's see, where is this one? Mark says, have we lost momentum since getting knocked out of the Europa League? West Ham looked fresher than us. Vinny and Vespa say yes. What do you say, guys? Tony?
Yeah, you know what? I kind of buy into this because I do think the momentum of having games back to back to back, it gets that cycle going right as well. Maybe there's a little bit too much time. The bottom line is what's happened there, and if we're being real about it, was the injuries that's affected us from that game, rather than psychologically anything else. I think that, and again, I'm not blaming Holding, but I saw this stat earlier and I thought it was really interesting. Since we've lost Saliba, Arsenal's record, I think we've conceded 20% pretty much of all the goals we've conceded this season in the last 4 games. And that's without Big Willie Saliba, which tells you quite a lot. That's huge, right? So that's what cost us from that Europa League game. The injuries more than anything else, I'd say.
Yeah, but I don't think we've lost momentum. I think we've won games since losing, being knocked out of Europe. So you wouldn't say. Sorry?
Is it match edge that we've lost more?
No,
edginess?
It's not match edge. No, because think about it. We're 2-0 up at Anfield and we don't win. We're 2-0 up at West Ham and we don't win. Is that losing momentum? No, that's at Anfield, difficult place to go. I get that. They could turn it on. At West Ham, we just got complacent and our big players didn't perform for probably an hour and it cost us. But here's the crazy thing, so we're still at the top and it's still in our hands.
We are. Red card for Newman. Red card for Newman, not a shocker. Red card for QWERTY, who left of his own accord. Thank you. And a red card for Thunder Road earlier, although Thunder Road has redeemed themselves and VAR has checked and it has been reduced to a yellow. All right. A couple more questions for you guys. Actually, more of a quick statement, and I want you to let me know what you think about this. Matthew Hudson. Always love seeing Matthew here, the creator of our GIFs. Thank you again, Matthew, for all that you do for us. This is in response to the Saka thing. Here's what I want to say to you guys, which is why we have to be careful about talking about Saka. I don't want Saka to be mollycoddled, Tony and Kev. He's not a child. He's God's child. But he's a man now, okay? And I want to protect him always. I want to wrap him up in cotton wool and put him on my windowsill and keep him safe forever. But I don't think he should have to apologize for missing a penalty.
No way.
I really don't. What is this new? And someone else is asking a question about how supporting a football club has changed due to social media. I thought it's a very smart question from FBJ here. You know, it's like, why does Saka have to apologize, Tony?
I think it's really sad, to be honest. I don't think he feels he should have to apologise. The first thing I saw when that came up was memories of what he had to go through after the Euros. And that's an automatic thing, whether it's directly from him or his team. There's just a kind of, because he's we all know what an incredible personality he is. And it makes me sad. I think the only reason that apology comes up is because we're in the social media age of trolls. And when David Beckham got sent off against Argentina in France '98, it was the papers. And now it's social media, which will look back on these dark days of social media because it's not policed in the right way. And God knows what his DMs look like. So yeah, he put an apology up in like a kind of a shield against all the crap that he must receive. That's what I think. I don't think it's something he has to do at all. That kid's psychology is far above most of us. He's an elite athlete, an elite person. He's totally cool after missing that penalty.
Kev, are you in agreement? Like, he shouldn't be apologizing, but understand. I think Tony's probably hit the nail on the head there as to why he did.
He doesn't have to, but I just think, listen, we talk about connection with the fan base, right? We talk about the players being likable and us all coming together. And I just think he's such a nice kid, and he's a nice young man, that he wanted to put that out there just to let everybody know it's not going to stop me on my purpose.
Yeah, good for him.
Because it's not just, I'm really sorry I missed the penalty and, I'm down. No. He says he'll never shirk his responsibility, and he'll try his hardest to basically go again. That's what we want to hear. Yeah, you've missed it, but he's going to get on the bike and he's going to go again. He's going to, on Friday, we want to see Saka have one of his best games, because that's what the best players do. They bounce back. So, yeah, if it was to happen again, I wouldn't want him. I'm really sorry, that's a soft one. But after this one, because this one was a bit painful, I think, for Saka.
Yeah.
Knowing it could have taken us away. Fair enough, he's made the apology, but he doesn't have to. But I just think he's such a nice young man that he done it anyway.
Yeah. And agree with Matty K. He is the most loved footballer in England, whether you support Arsenal or not. He is a gem. And I love that people love him. I just don't want him to. I want us to let him grow into a man now, right? He's smart. He's got his head on his shoulders. I just don't want us to mollycoddle him. And even for his own evolution, Tony, his growth is going to be, he's going to face a lot of things as he grows into a superstar footballer.
100%. He's 21, and I'd like to think that we've got him for another 15 years. I see he for me, the best thing I can say about how much I absolutely love him, he's a statue player. I see that young man having a statue outside the Emirates, and he's a role model for my little boy. I think he's incredible. But I also think Arteta is the perfect coach for him. Because, earlier in the season when people saying Saka never gets a yellow card against the opponent that kicks him, Arteta wasn't really making a big deal of that. And Arteta's also said, listen, mate, if you want to be an elite player, you're going to play in every World Cup. You're going to play in every Euros. Next season, welcome to the Champions League. Yeah. Arteta is putting the treadmill up like that. And that is why he's been such an amazing player this season for us.
Okay, so let's get you guys a few more minutes here. Some good questions that have come in, and there's a lot that have come in. And I got some DMs, Kev, emails for you, because everyone wanted to know what you guys thought of seeing him play against us. This was their little high five at the end of the match. I've got fans telling me 100 million, Sophie is so overrated. 100 million is what you're going to pay for an English player, unfortunately, if he's sought after. 60 million, I'll pay for him. I'll take him and Caicedo. Kev, what was your take on Declan yesterday? See, put Kev to sleep. Declan Rice put Kev to sleep.
I thought, can you hear me? I thought he had a really good game. And there ain't many players, Sophie, who can influence a game as much like Declan Rice, just with his hard running, his closing down, makes a real difference. And you put that in our team, we're a different team. Especially where you're talking about going to the likes of Anfield, going to the likes of the Etihad, going to Old Trafford. If you got somebody who can mix it up, not only can I sit here and play, but I can go on. I think that big trait that I think Mikel Arteta wants in his team. Listen, it's going to come up whether we get him or not. I know the money's going to be big, But I could see him being a Gooner. I could see him being an Arsenal player. Definitely see him doing his thing. But I think he influences games in many different ways. And sometimes fans only see players what they do on the ball. I look at especially off the ball. Because if you're a midfielder, if you can influence the game without the ball, just with your presence and pressing, yeah, he's a real player. I'm telling you, he's a real player.
You see him. You do a lot of work over there, don't you? And what do you think, Tony?
Yeah, I think I do. I work over at West Ham, and I think the fans, they do love him there, and I think that he's a brilliant player. I think it will be sad with my relationship with West Ham to see someone like that leave that stadium, because he's massive. They love him at that ground. They've had some difficult times as well, and he says all the right things. But from Arsenal's perspective, I think there's this massive trend with Arteta buying from the Prem. I think that Caicedo is a different player to Declan Rice. And I think if Arsenal want to level up, I love Caicedo. He's Partey's replacement. For me, Declan Rice would sit perfectly where Xhaka does and can do a bit of both as well. It's going to be a very interesting summer. And Gooners as well. We're in the Champions League next season. You can pretty much definitely confirm that now. There's some players coming to the Emirates this summer, and it's going to be really exciting. We're going to spend big. We're going to sell a bit. Be excited, as Josh Kroenke would say. You can actually be excited.
Be excited. Be excited. Okay, the last question for you guys, and it is really, I thought mostly the questions today would come about Saka and Thomas Partey, Mikel. But the biggest question, and I can't find it because there's so many of them, I'll put Tony's up. Emile Smith-Rowe doesn't even come on. Yes, talk to me. What's happening? Talk to everyone.
He hasn't had a lot of football, and maybe because in training he hasn't shown that he's ready. That's why. Does he get on before? Trossard? No.
Does he get on before Vieira? Yes.
No, he doesn't. No.
Yes, he does for me.
I'm saying he doesn't because he didn't. He's down the pecking order at the moment. And the key is you've got to be doing it in training. You've got to show that you're ready. And maybe he isn't. That's the
Kev, you gave some interesting insight. Sorry to just say one thing. Kev, you did a really good show together where you talked about your back injury and Saliba. And there's certain things as fans that we don't know how that was affecting you and how you nursed your way through games and these long-term injuries that players suffer. And if I've got it right, Emile's injuries have been a really long-term thing. And my point is that, do you remember there was a time where everyone was saying Arteta doesn't fancy Martinelli after he was recovering from his injury?
Mm-hmm.
And now, and I promise you next season in the Champions League, Martinelli is going to have another incredible season. He's a phenomenal player now because he was nursed through. So I think what you're saying is interesting from a pro's perspective. Maybe there's things that aren't quite right yet after such a long injury. He needs a pre-season. So I think he's still got massive faith in him.
Yeah. Dublin Gooner also wants you to do some hype work for him as well. Yeah. I mean, look, I think that this is a player who Arteta has believed in for a very long time, scored 10 goals last season, even accepted a role coming off the bench. And I don't know, is it one of those situations where I kind of got hyper about Martinelli? Exactly what, Tony, I was one of those fans. Why isn't he playing? Why isn't he playing? And so, yes, patience there for sure. But is it a case of more Tierney as well as Emile Smith-Rowe, players who really were big for Mikel in the first 18 months of his career? But now with the evolution, maybe he just feels, I don't know, there's something quite not right. Why is he on the bench if he's not ready? Why is he on the bench if he's not ready?
Because you might need him.
But he's not ready. So why would you put a player in who's not ready?
Do you think because we're short, like we've got Royal Waters on the bench as well? Yeah.
I've just answered the question. In training, he might not be ready to start, but you might need him. Who was it? We played Bournemouth and Saka got injured. Who came on? Smith-Rowe. But I had to take him off again solely because he hasn't had a lot of football. That's all. So
Okay,
what
I'm just
goes on in
asking the
back-
question to understand because you said he wasn't ready,
Yeah,
so
but
I needed to then understand why.
But I'm answering it. That's my point.
Yeah,
So what goes on the training pitch determines the pecking order of where you are and how you get your minutes.
yeah. I get that there are players ahead of
That's always
him.
been the way. No, but
Yeah,
that's
and
always been the way, especially with a manager like Arteta.
yeah, he
You're
seemed
sitting-
fine when he scored for England and played
would-
for England. Just saying, just he seemed fine
under
to me.
21. So come on. Yeah, but it's England under 20. We're top of the.
Yeah, but
we are
see, it's a good
trying
job he's
to-
cracking up here because he's
to
talking
just be a
nonsense.
platform for ESR.
Yes, I think with your delay on your internet there, we're talking similarly, except I'm trying to understand that when he has played for England at that level and scored, and he's been on the bench, but he's not been really used, and you said that he's not ready, then why would he be on the bench if he's not ready? That was all I was asking. There.
Because he's still a first team player.
That's what I know. You answered it. I was just explaining in case it got lost in translation when you couldn't hear with your internet.
Yeah, but you said I'm talking nonsense before.
Yeah, that was a joke when your internet cracked. See?
Yeah, I know.
See,
So
got
I'm
lost
saying,
my
if
joke
I'm
got lost
talking
in translation.
No, but if I'm talking nonsense, but that's the point.
I remember having conversations with you about players being nobody puts a player on the bench if he's not ready to come into the game. And you had said he wasn't ready, hence why I asked, why is he on the bench then if he's not ready? He's just making up the quota. I get it.
Sophie, I'm going to say this again. Maybe he's not showed enough in training to be up the pecking order to come on. The question was, why didn't he come on yesterday? That's the reason. Vieira's obviously showing more.
All right. Well, come on. You can't say that. You got a yellow for that, Mikel Arteta. Right there. A yellow for Mikel Arteta. Right, that's it. That's all we've got time for today. DJ Tony Perry, let everyone know. Everyone gets a closing statement. Everyone gets to let the Squaddies know what they think. What is your advice to them heading for the rest of the season? What would you like to leave us with this evening?
I'm just going to say, let's back our boys the whole way. That's all I can say. Because we want it so bad. The only way we can do it is to be loud, proud, positive. I'm getting down there early on Friday night. I'm going to be looking at Kev. I'll be saying, Super Kev's down there by the pitch. And we're going to get the place rocking for our boys. There's a long way to go.
We like that. Super Kevin Campbell. We've got some great shows lined up between now and the end of the season. Kicking it all off here tonight on Monday Madness with DJ Tony Perry. I think he smashed it, always does. I will let you close the show. That's all I have. I'm not giving away coins tonight. I've given away cards. People have actually quite annoyed me this evening. I'm still here. That's all I have to say. I'm out.
Well, maybe I'm one of them, Squaddy, so
nah.
I know what I'm saying.
Let me play some music for you. It's all right. I'll beatbox.
But listen, let me just say this. Thanks, Tony, for coming on and joining us. Great insight. And you know what? You're right. Got to change the mindset and get people going. Yeah, I love that. Sophie, hostess with the mostest, as always. Another great show on Monday Madness. But you guys, ladies and gentlemen, you gooners, 2 results that, hey, we didn't see coming. But you know what? I still got faith in the boys. I am not giving up hope. I have belief. I truly believe there's more twists to come. With 7 games to go, it's a 7-game season. And we've got to back our boys. We've backed them all season and we're still top. So, do you know what? On that note, love each other, love the club, and love the Arsenal, and love the Highbury Squad. And we will see you very soon. Squaddies, at ease.
We love you, Soph.
I love you guys, knuckleheads.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.